Marijuana, the cult drug of young people and one of the most controversial drugs in existence. But researchers are finding that there may be more to this drug than just a good time. It may be a useful medical tool. Marijuana has been looked upon as a drug good only for abuse. Federal laws, in fact, classify it as a drug with no medical value. And although studies are showing that the federal laws have misclassified the drug, in Oklahoma, as in most states, the laws are enforced.
There are some indications that marijuana may be beneficial in the treatment of certain diseases. For example, glaucoma, asthma, and to alleviate some of the side effects from chemotherapy. In Oklahoma, marijuana is still classified as a Schedule I controlled dangerous substance, and it is not legal to use it for any method of treatment.
If a doctor decided that marijuana would medically benefit me, then I would have my faith and trust in that doctor.
Nancy Ellis never thought much about smoking marijuana until she got cancer. Marijuana alleviates the nausea caused by chemotherapy, but even then, Nancy Ellis has second thoughts about the drug.
But if it's medically prescribed and that's what the doctor feels necessary for me, then I'm going to be the first one to take it.
But if she does smoke marijuana, she could go to prison. The laws in most states ignore the medical value of the drug. It can't be prescribed. And that's the center of a growing controversy that may force present laws to be changed. For NBC News, Linda Cavanaugh. Bales of confiscated marijuana. Although it's illegal now, the plant was used as a folk medicine at the turn of the century to treat a variety of ills. Now scientists are finding there's more to the drug's medical value than myth. Marijuana, for example, may soon play an important role in the treatment of glaucoma, the second leading cause of blindness in the United States. Glaucoma is characterized by a buildup of pressure within the eye. Smoking marijuana relieves that pressure. But a glaucoma victim would have to smoke a marijuana cigarette every 4 hours, 24 hours a day to keep the pressure down. And for most, that simply isn't realistic.
I would say that it's not a good treatment or not a practical treatment at this time. I think it has potential when they develop eye drops that contain the active ingredient in marijuana, which is tetrahydrocannabinol. Develop eye drops that contain that, or when they develop derivatives of tetrahydrocannabinol, which do not have the mental effects.
But marijuana is showing a more practical application for cancer victims. It makes chemotherapy treatment bearable by reducing the nausea and uncontrolled vomiting. Marijuana works where conventional medications fail.
Well, some of our medicines are just not very effective in preventing nausea, and so if we could find something that was more effective than what we have, why we would really, the patients would benefit quite a bit from it.
One of the more promising areas in marijuana research is in the treatment of asthma. The active ingredients in the drug, known as THC, make it easier for patients to breathe during asthmatic attacks. In addition, marijuana may be useful as a pre-medicament in surgery. But despite promising test results, marijuana cannot legally be prescribed in most states. That's not the case in New Mexico, where doctors can prescribe the drug. For NBC News, Linda Cavanaugh. New Mexico, the first state in the nation to legalize marijuana for medical purposes. The legislature voted and passed a bill that allows doctors to prescribe marijuana for cancer and glaucoma patients. The federally grown joints are provided free of charge to the patients, but the drug is not available to everyone. It's given only to those who have been approved by a state review board. They are patients who cannot find relief with conventional drugs, and for them, marijuana is a last resort. Only about a dozen applicants have been formally approved for the program, but the number of New Mexico patients who actually use marijuana to combat their medical problems is thought to be much larger.
I'm certain a number of people with the publicity have tried it, and I'm also certain that there are a number of physicians in New Mexico who have suggested that their patients try it.
Do you see anything wrong with that?
No, not really. I think the law will see lots of things wrong with it, but if I'm looking at it purely from a therapeutic potential, I see nothing wrong with that.
The federal government has also made the marijuana available in capsule form, but federal officials have not been cooperative. The program has been plagued by bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, many believe, is designed to discourage other states from starting similar programs. But state officials are still optimistic about the potential of marijuana.
Oh, I see a magnificent future if we can get a less restrictive attitude at the federal level. Now, my own feeling is that it's unnecessarily restrictive to keep it as a Schedule I drug and to classify it as something that has no medicinal value, which Schedule I drugs are classified as, simply because of the fact that it does have potential as a drug of abuse.
New Mexico officials have been forced to fill out reams of paperwork to appease federal regulations. Despite the fact that the program was approved in February of 1978, it took the federal government over a year to supply the marijuana for the cancer patients. In the meantime, 3 of the first 4 patients approved for the program died. For NBC News, Linda Cavanaugh. Mike Harold is a 20-year-old restaurant cook. He has cancer. He's battled the disease with chemotherapy. In Illinois, where he's from, he could legally smoke marijuana to offset the side effects. In most other states, however, he cannot. And since he's allergic to conventional anti-nausea drugs, he's left with nothing to combat his problem.
Well, as soon as it goes in, some of it I can taste it when it goes in my veins, and it makes me sick from the taste. And then eventually, I don't know, after it gets in the system, like takes about 2 or 3 hours, and you start getting nauseated and a lot of vomiting, like every 10 minutes or so.
Many physicians are sympathetic. Some prescribe marijuana under the table when nothing else works. But under present laws, that makes them subject to arrest.
I'd say that those physicians are in violation of the law and should very carefully consider how involved they get in such a program.
Even though it is illegal, a number of patients are using marijuana. But there are dangers involved in buying marijuana on the street, especially for someone not familiar with the drug.
We've seen samples of parsley that looks like marijuana, and we've seen mint leaves that look like marijuana to the naked eye, and only an analyst can tell for sure which is which. And we've also seen samples of marijuana that have been laced with PCP or possibly even paraquat. And that would be a dangerous thing for someone that doesn't know what it is to take.
But the possibilities of contamination would not be a problem if the drug could be obtained by prescription. And there are plans in many state legislatures to introduce laws that would make that possible. Oklahoma is one example.
The medical history on it is well proven, and it has very definite therapeutic benefits to keep people from going blind from glaucoma, which is a buildup of the pressure in the eyes. And I don't know how anybody could object to providing terminal cancer patients with some relief.
I feel that there'd be some doctors that would be more liberal than others in letting people use because it would be their beliefs whether it'd be harmful or not. And you always have the very few doctors that would use this to make a lot of money in their profession.
Reefer Madness, this 1930s film created a nationwide hysteria about marijuana. It associated it with heroin, and that association spelled the end to a rational view of the drug and the search for therapeutic uses.
Oh, here. If you want a good smoke, try one of these.
The history of the marijuana issue, of course, is clouded in controversy and an emotionalism based on the 1935 movie Reefer Madness, etc. But it's interesting that there were therapeutic uses of marijuana prior to the enactment of the 1935 law, and we're just now finding out that some of those people who need it the most are being deprived of it.
For NBC News, Linda Cavanaugh.
See you. Maybe next week. Okay. Bye-bye. Sure. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Self-defense is more than just physical. It also requires a lot of mental determination to survive. Now, here's what I mean. The odds are pretty good that sometime in your life you may be the Self-defense is more than just a physical skill. It also requires a lot of mental determination to survive. Now, here's what I mean. The odds are pretty good that sometime in your life you may be the victim of a crime. You may be surprised how often people do become victims in this country. Every 3 seconds, there's a serious crime committed. Every 10 seconds, a burglary. Every 30 seconds, there's a violent crime. Every 60 seconds, an aggravated assault. Every minute and a half, someone is robbed. Every 8 minutes, a forcible rape. And every half hour, someone will be murdered.
42nd and McKinley, stand by there. 13W10, roger.
Last year, nationally, there was a total of more than 11 million reported crimes. You don't have to become a hermit to avoid becoming a victim. But you should develop a mental toughness and a positive attitude about defending yourself. This applies whether you're old or young, athletic or obese, male or female. When you get the mental part resolved, that you will defend yourself, that's when the physical part comes in.
And if you're prepared, if you put yourself in a hazardous situation, you can be taken advantage of no matter how well prepared you are. And so I think it's important to be aware of that we unfortunately live in a somewhat dangerous society and that we need to take precautions.
Careless behavior invites attack. The more mentally prepared you are, the more you cut down the odds of becoming a victim. There are, of course, all kinds of weapons you could use to defend yourself from a criminal attack. But conventional weapons are often impractical, expensive, and might even present a bigger danger to you than to the attacker. Chemical spray canisters seem to hit a good middle ground in available weapons. They're not overly dangerous, but are effective.
They will totally incapacitate a person for about 10 minutes. Eyes will be closed, he'll be blinded for about 10 minutes, he can't see. There is excessive pain in the face. His breathing is impaired. His eyes will water. Just totally incapacitated.
Sound can also be an effective defense. Pressurized canisters are the loudest, but a simple whistle can do the job. But if you wear it around your neck, make sure it's on a detachable chain so it can't be used to choke you. There are some makeshift weapons. A purse can be used to swing like a club. Hairspray can be used to spray into the eyes to distract an attacker. A comb can be used to jab. A fingernail file can be used for the same purpose. And a set of keys used to jab or rake an attacker can be a very effective weapon. The important thing is to use whatever weapon is available to you if you are actually attacked. Often, the best available weapons are parts of your own body. The first thing you have to keep in mind is that careless behavior invites an attack. Mental preparation is vital if you want to cut down the odds of becoming a victim. Women who live alone are among the most vulnerable targets. So here are a few simple precautions to help turn those odds around. List only your last name and initials on your mailbox and in the phone directory. When you move into a new apartment, change the locks. Someone may have kept the keys to the old ones. Chain locks and peepholes are good, inexpensive safeguards. Ask to see credentials for any strangers who come to your door. And look out for leading questions trying to find out if you're alone. When you go out of your home, avoid unlighted areas and be on the lookout for places where attackers might hide, like shrubbery and dark entryways. Plan ahead. Look for possible escape paths. If you're going to drive, make sure you check the back seat before you get in. It's a good idea to keep the windows up and the doors locked when you're driving. And always try to avoid unfamiliar and unlighted roads. If you think you're being followed, don't go directly home. Instead, take down the license number and drive to the nearest police station. If your car breaks down, raise the hood and sit inside with the doors locked. If someone other than a policeman stops, it's best to ask them to call a tow truck for you. Don't open your door to strangers. And if you're traveling alone, don't stop to help a disabled motorist. Drive on and notify authorities so they can help. If you don't have a car or aren't driving, vary your daily schedule. If you do the exact same thing at the exact same times, you become too predictable, and that raises the odds of your becoming a victim. If you are approached or attacked, it's essential to act quickly, fight back, scream, and run to safer ground. And keep a dime taped to your purse so you can make a quick call to the police.
More than one person pacing and fretting about some way to make a lot of money these last few years has hit on this bright idea. Get in on the ground floor of the home solar energy business. With the nation in energy need and the government poised to push for such attractive alternatives, even a tax credit for homeowners in the offing, how could one miss getting rich quick?
Am I going to get rich quick?
Probably not. People who think that the solar business and the solar installation business is a simple get-quick scheme are probably in for a mistake. Roughly, I think a third of the companies that were in business 3 years ago are today no longer in business.
A small solar energy company used to operate in the basement of this Bethesda building. It, and a lot of others like it, are gone. And although you can find homeowners who, like the businessmen, thought the sun was the way to save money, the delay in congressional approval of the tax credit, the high initial cost of solar units, and skepticism about the energy crisis itself have combined to stifle the great surge of demand for such equipment. No problem for larger firms like SolarX of Rockville, Maryland. They're building giant solar units for industry, including the petroleum industry's isolated oil rigs. But even they agree that what the government is putting behind its support for solar energy in the home isn't enough.
I think what the federal government has to do is be more aggressive about the types of market stimulation and solar commercialization programs that they have. I think the tax credit is an excellent first step, but what you need in addition to the tax credit would be some sort of assistance in the financing mechanisms for solar systems.
Despite all the hoopla, then, for a while yet, the home solar industry is likely to remain for the smaller businessmen not much more than the glint in the solar cell that runs a fancy batteryless toy. And it could take a massive infusion of capital or a real shift in the national rules to change all that. Ken Alvord, NBC News, Washington.
It was February 1977 when TerraSet first opened. All the fanfare, all the coverage was because TerraSet was built to be an energy saver. The school caused quite a controversy in the beginning, as the Saudi Arabians had given it a $600,000 grant to buy and install its solar collector. The rest of the school was built and paid for by the community. Well, the controversy has died down now, and the sun is doing its energy saving at TerraSet, a lot of it. The solar collector, which acts as both a heating and a cooling source, is just one of the energy conservers here. The school is earth-covered, making less heating and cooling required. The earth tends to maintain an average temperature year-round, so the building neither responds to the peaks of the summer heat nor the lows of the winter cold. There's also a heat reclaiming system. Around the light fixtures, there are openings that allow the circulating air to return to the heating units, collecting body heat and heat from the lights themselves. There is an electrical backup system, but it's used only when there is a long cloudy period or an extended cold spell. According to the research engineer who has been carefully monitoring the performance of the whole system, TerraSet is a tremendous success.
Well, the comparable school would cost approximately $32,000 for the winter fuel bill. Here at TerraSet, we have saved approximately half of that, or $16,000 for the winter. It was calculated to be somewhere between 5 and 7% initially more expensive. However, the cost can be amortized or paid back within 3 to 4 years.
According to the principal of the school, the energy-saving system has made her quite a conservationist.
In my own life, I find that I'm much more aware of the ways in which I waste energy. For the kids, I believe just being a part of a research project where you recognize that you don't have all the answers, but maybe you know what some of the questions are.
And what about those kids? Well, Peter Lord certainly soaked up his share of that energy information.
The solar panels bring this energy, converted steam energy, comes down into this room, and then it's changed two ways, you know, into heat or into cool air. And it goes all around the school, and the ceiling has these little holes in it, and it just comes down and up. The hot air goes up and the cool air comes down, and it's really economical way to heat your school and cool it.
And what about the sun as an energy source?
The sun will keep on powering it for as long as TerraSet manages to hold up.
The county school system here clearly thinks TerraSet is working. It is now in the process of building another elementary school just like it, and it's going to be called Terra Center. Marjorie Margolis, NBC News, Reston, Virginia.